Hi, Sean Barker here with Coach's Corner to show you some deadlift progressions. All you need is a kettlebell. You can also do it with variations of dumbbells, but one good kettlebell shall do the job, provided it's done properly and we're hinging at the hips and we're using a elevated step maybe if necessary. And we can go from 2 arms to even 1 to progress it, and even more advanced to the kettlebell 2-arm swing, and even the 1-arm kettlebell swing, which is a lot more advanced. I'm usually a big fan of starting to deadlift from an elevated position depending on your range of motion, okay? So an elevated step in this case is great. I like to get my feet just on the outside of it, sort of puts you in a generally hip-width apart position. The kettlebell is right here. I step over it so the kettlebell is in alignment basically with my feet. Front of the kettlebell is in alignment with my toes. I want a slight knee bend. Again, we're hinging at the hips. The hips are going to push back to automatically lower my arms to reach the horns of that kettlebell. So if you notice, my hips are pushed back, my back is nice and flat. I'm slightly looking at the floor ahead. You don't want to look up because then you'll cringe your neck. You just want to look at the floor ahead. Just feel a good stretch in the hamstrings at this point. Nice flat back. You get a good grip on the kettlebell, and you also want to sort of really get a good tension grip on the horns of this kettlebell by torquing your elbows in like you're sort of trying to break the handle or horns of the kettlebell apart, okay? That engages the shoulder stability and the upper back and the lats here, okay? You get to the bottom position, arms stay straight, you don't want to bend at the elbow, you push through your heels, you stand up nice and straight, you squeeze your backside tight, squeeze your abs tight, looking straight ahead. We don't want to push our hips forward like this, okay? Then obviously to lower, you just reverse it. Slight knee bend, hips get pushed back, get that kettlebell to an elevated surface like the stepper, and lift to lock it out. By lifting from the elevated surface, you don't have to go down as low, specifically if you're just learning how to hinge at the hips in deadlifts, okay? So always start with an elevated surface a little bit, then you can progress obviously to the floor. Where that kettlebell is on the floor, now you step above the bell, same rules apply, but now you have to come down a little bit lower by pushing your hips back. A little bit more hamstring flexibility required here. Good grip, torque it in, lock it out. Okay? Now, that is some basic deadlift progressions with one kettlebell. More advanced, you go to the kettlebell 2-arm swing. Okay? Very important to learn this one properly as well. And you start by very similar starting position of the deadlift. But the swing now is more a ballistic variation of the deadlift. Gives you a really intense cardio conditioning effect, but you got to make sure you do it well. Okay? I like to step above the bell to start, just like I'm going to deadlift. Okay? But then you want to step back. Okay? You want to step back from the bell for your swing, just a couple feet to the positioning where you have the hinge at the hips and you have to reach out enough for the bell. You notice my back is nice and flat. My hips are really pushed back. I want to grab the horns of that bell so that kettlebell is at a tilt. This is where I start my swing. Then I want to hike it back, power my hips forward, and I'm hinging at the hips. I'm not squatting the movement. This is the biggest mistake people make with the kettlebell swing. They squat the movement and they lift with their arms. It's all in the power of the hips, okay? That posterior chain, your glutes, your hamstrings, even your core, and your cardio endurance. Set it up again. Few feet back from the bell. Feet are a little bit wider than the hips. I hinge back. I reach for the bell at a tilt. I get a good grip. I'm trying to sort of bend the handles of that kettlebell to engage these muscles here, our lats and shoulder stabilizers. I'm going to hike it back to start. I'm going to snap my hips forward, squeeze my glutes, but I'm keeping the bell above my knees. So your forearms should reach or just graze your upper thighs. You're really squeezing your backside, your glutes, to power that kettlebell to around shoulder level. You're not lifting it with the arms, okay? All the flow of the bell should come from the power of the hips. And actually, in this case, with the swing, you notice it gets my heart rate up already when you do it well. But with the swing, it's actually better to go a little bit heavier, as long as your form is good, so you can't lift the kettlebell with your shoulders. If you can do this, and do a front shoulder raise with the kettlebell, I recommend you go a little bit heavier kettlebell. That way you have to use that power of your hips to really hinge and swing with power, okay? Hope that gives you some extra confidence and clarity as you work from a deadlift progression, elevated stepper, 2 arms, then go to the floor, 2 arms deadlift, to a 2-arm kettlebell swing, and then of course more advanced is you just do the same, but you swing with 1 arm, which requires a lot more anti-stability challenge, okay? Sean Barker signing off for today from Coach's Corner. We'll see you next time.